On my 29th birthday, my parents told me my sister was the only one worth loving. Stay with me till the end, because what started as a family dinner turned into the moment I finally saw my life for what it really was. It was supposed to be a simple dinner. My mom had cooked her famous jollof rice, my dad opened a bottle of wine, and I honestly thought, for once, it was about me. I had just finished a long shift at the hospital, still in my scrubs, and came home to see balloons and cake on the table. I felt a little happy. Maybe they remembered. Maybe things were changing. Layla, my younger sister, walked in late as usual, dressed like she was going to a red carpet event. She had just gotten a big promotion at her marketing firm, and even before she sat down, the whole room was already spinning around her. Mom started bragging about her salary. Dad laughed about how proud he was. I smiled, cutting my cake quietly while they kept talking about her success. Then Dad stood up to make a toast. I thought, finally, this part is for me. I looked up, waiting to hear something kind. He raised his glass, smiled at Layla, and said, "To Layla, our shining star. You've always been the only one worth loving." The room went still. I froze. Mom nodded in agreement, like it was the most natural thing to say. I thought maybe I heard it wrong, but then Layla looked at me, awkward and quiet, and I realized no one was going to correct him. I laughed. It came out sharp and shaky. "Wow, thanks, Dad. Guess I know where I stand now." He just shrugged. "Oh, Nia, don't be sensitive. You know what we mean." But I didn't. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn that love they gave her so easily. Good grades, long hours, never asking for much. And still, here I was, the invisible daughter, celebrating my own birthday by watching my parents toast to someone else. The air turned heavy after that. Layla tried to lighten the mood by cutting another slice of cake, but no one spoke. My mom asked if I could help clean up like she always did, and that was it. My birthday ended like every other family event, with me standing by the sink while everyone else laughed in the living room. That night, lying in bed, I replayed those words again and again. The only one worth loving. I told myself to forget it, to brush it off, but deep down, something inside me cracked. For the first time, I stopped making excuses for them. I realized maybe love shouldn't have to be earned, and maybe I didn't have to keep chasing people who would never see me. That was the moment everything began to change. I grew up in a house where love had conditions. My parents never said it out loud, but I learned early that I wasn't the favorite. My sister Layla was everything they wanted in a daughter. Pretty, confident, full of energy. She could make a mess, forget chores, or talk back, and they'd still smile and call her our sunshine. When I made a mistake, even a small one, it became a family crisis. I remember being 8 when a glass vase broke in the living room. I wasn't even there, but Mom yelled my name from the kitchen like she already knew it had to be me. I stood there, trying to explain, while Layla hid behind the couch, guilty and silent. Mom scolded me for being careless, and I took the blame because that's what I always did. In school, things weren't much different. I worked hard just to keep up, while Layla seemed to float through everything effortlessly. When she got a trophy for dance, Dad took her out for ice cream. When I brought home a report card full of A's, he just said, "Good. That's what's expected." At first, I thought maybe if I kept trying, they'd see me. I stayed up late studying, helped around the house, kept quiet when they compared us. But nothing changed. Layla could do no wrong. I became the background character in my own home. I remember one night in high school when Dad looked at me across the dinner table and said, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" He didn't say it to hurt me. At least, I don't think he did, but it cut deep. Because I wasn't like her. I didn't know how to shine in the way that made people clap for you. I was the quiet one, the helper, the one no one noticed until something went wrong. When I finally graduated from nursing school, the first person in our family to earn a degree, I thought maybe this was it. My moment. I sent invitations, saved them seats, bought a dress for pictures. But on the morning of my ceremony, Mom called. Her voice was cheerful, almost excited. She said, "Sweetheart, we can't make it. Layla has her big dance recital tonight, and you know how much this means to her." I stood in that graduation crowd alone, holding my diploma with shaking hands. The other families were cheering, taking photos, hugging their kids. I smiled for the camera when a classmate offered to take my picture, pretending it didn't hurt. But when I got home that night, I tore up the program and cried quietly in my room. After that, I stopped expecting them to show up for me. I stopped asking for love that never came. Somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling anything at all. The days after my birthday felt like walking through fog. I went to work, smiled at patients, charted notes, but inside, I was somewhere else. My father's words, "You've always been the only one worth loving, Layla," played in my head on repeat. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that I was used to it, but this time it hit differently. Maybe because I was finally old enough to understand that nothing I did would ever be enough for them. At the hospital, I found myself zoning out during rounds. A patient asked me a question twice before I even realized she was talking. My coworker, Tanya, caught me leaning against the counter with a blank stare. "Girl, what's wrong with you?" she asked, snapping her fingers in front of me. Tanya didn't play around. She was the type to call you out and still have your back when everything fell apart. I shrugged, pretending I was just tired. But Tanya wasn't buying it. She folded her arms. "Don't even start with that. You've got that face you get when your family's been on their nonsense again." I sighed, leaning against the break room table. It was my birthday. They made a toast for my sister. Said she was the only one worth loving. Tanya stared at me like she couldn't believe what she just heard. "They said that? Out loud?" I nodded. My voice cracked when I said it. She shook her head slowly. "Nia, you've been letting them walk on you your whole damn life. You keep giving them everything, and they keep giving you scraps. When are you going to stop?" Her words hit harder than I expected. I wanted to defend my parents, to say they didn't mean it, but the truth stuck in my throat. Tanya was right. I'd been trying to earn love that wasn't coming. That evening, I drove home in silence. I told myself I'd just rest, maybe cook something simple, clear my head. But when I turned onto my parents' street, I saw them outside, laughing and helping Layla carry boxes into a new luxury apartment across the street. My mom was handing her keys. My dad was joking with the movers. For a second, I smiled, thinking maybe they'd invited me too. Then I heard my dad say, "Good thing we were able to help her with that down payment." All those savings came in handy. Savings. My savings. The money they'd borrowed from me years ago when I thought they were struggling. Money they promised to pay back. I stood there, frozen on the sidewalk, watching my parents and sister celebrate with my hard-earned money. Something in me broke right then. Not loudly. Not with anger or tears. Just a deep, quiet snap inside my chest. That night, I didn't call them. I didn't cry either. I just sat in my car, staring at the city lights, whispering to myself, "Enough." For the first time in my life, I meant it. I stopped picking up their calls and let the voicemail fill up. At first it felt strange. The silence was loud in a way I wasn't used to. But it also felt like I was taking back a small piece of myself. I deleted their last few texts without reading them. I smiled when I turned my phone off at night. It was petty maybe, but it felt necessary. If they could act like my life didn't matter, I could act like their words didn't reach me. I started small. I paid my bills on time and kept extra cash in a separate account they didn't know about. I changed a few passwords. I closed a joint account I'd opened years ago for family emergencies and moved the money out. Nothing dramatic, just motions that made me feel less exposed. At work, I asked Tanya a favor. I told her I needed a quiet weekend and asked if she could cover my shift if I had to run errands. She looked at me with that mix of suspicion and love she always wears and said, "Whatever you need." I used that time to go through boxes in the attic, old receipts, envelopes, paperbacks, anything that smelled like our past. I'd always been careful with paperwork, a trait my patients joked about. Now that habit was a tool. I found unpaid bills, utility statements, letters from financial aid offices. I found a stack of bank statements with deposits and withdrawals that didn't make sense. One late night, caffeine and flashlight, I spread everything out on the dining table and started matching dates. A pattern emerged. Transfers to Layla's school, checks written for tuition, a loan payment schedule in my name. I felt a cold, hollow punch in my stomach as I realized what I was looking at. There it was, a student loan taken out with my social security number. The school had received payment for Layla's tuition, and the lender was billing me. I flipped through the pages searching for my signature. It was there, but it didn't look like my handwriting. The date on the document was from years before I had remembered signing anything. Try as I might to explain it away, the truth sat in the middle of the table, plain and ugly. I didn't scream. I sat down slowly and breathed. My anger turned into a steady, clear shape. This was not just favoritism or neglect. This was theft dressed up as family duty. Something that had been a vague ache my whole life now had a name: fraud. I called Darius, the lawyer friend I'd known from college, and told him only what I needed to, I needed someone to look at documents and tell me if those signatures could be contested. He didn't ask for drama. He asked for copies. I scanned everything and sent it that night. Then I started the quieter warfare. I answered calls with one-line replies. I showed up to family events looking composed and polite while saying nothing that would give them a chance to gaslight me. I dropped compliments about their image in public, nothing too warm, but enough to keep them comfortable. Underneath that calm, I was building a map of where their money went, who handled accounts, and what records existed. My plan wasn't to ruin them for the thrill. It was to reclaim what was mine and to force them to face the truth. I wanted them to understand, finally, that love couldn't be bought or borrowed on my name. When Darius called me back, I was sitting in my car outside the hospital, staring at the steering wheel like it might tell me what to do next. His voice was calm, professional, but there was a hint of disbelief. "Nia," he said, "those signatures, they're forged. The handwriting doesn't match yours, and the dates line up with when you were still in nursing school. They used your name, your credit, everything." For a few seconds, I couldn't even speak. I just listened to the hum of traffic around me. It was one thing to suspect it, but hearing it confirmed made the air feel heavier. "So I can what? Sue them?" I finally asked. "Yes," he said. "Legally, you have every right to. What they did is identity fraud. But you have to be sure you're ready for that kind of fight. This won't be small." I thanked him and hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from clarity. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the years they took from me, the love they withheld, and the way they made me believe I was the problem. I didn't want their apology. I wanted them to taste the confusion, the shame, the cracks that come when the world stops believing your story. I went to see Tanya that evening. We sat in her kitchen, sipping tea while her kids played in the next room. I told her everything, the forged documents, the fake signatures, the lies. She slammed her cup down. "Girl, you could send them straight to jail if you wanted." I smiled a little. "I don't want them in jail. Not yet. I want them to feel it slowly." She raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said softly, "they're about to start doubting each other." The next few weeks, I became the version of myself they always wanted, calm, helpful, and smiling. I called my mom, asked about her church group, laughed at my dad's dry jokes. I even complimented Layla on her new apartment. But every conversation had something hidden in it. When Mom mentioned helping Layla with bills, I said, "That's so generous. I hope it's not coming from Dad's business account again. You know how he gets about that." When I talked to Dad, I sighed and said, "Layla told me she's been covering most of your bills lately. That's really kind of her." None of it was completely false, just bent enough to twist the edges. And it worked. Within days, the tension started showing. Layla called me one night, confused and angry. "Did Mom say something to you about money? Because she's acting weird." I kept my voice calm. "No, why? Is something wrong?" She hesitated. "I don't know, maybe." That tiny hesitation was all I needed. Every lie they told me for years, I was returning in whispers and smiles. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't fight. I just planted seeds. And I knew soon enough they'd start to grow. The cracks began small, like hairline fractures in glass. At first, no one noticed them but me. I could hear it in their voices, the sharp tone in my father's once steady words, the hesitation in my mother's laugh, the confusion in Layla's calls. The family that once moved like one smooth, perfect machine was starting to glitch. And all I had to do was nudge them a little more. It started one afternoon when Layla called me, her voice tight. "Nia, did you know Mom and Dad used your name for something?" I heard a weird voicemail from the bank asking for verification on a loan, and it had your name attached. I kept my tone innocent. That's strange. I mean, they've always handled money their own way. You know how Dad is with finances. He doesn't like anyone questioning him." She went quiet. I could almost hear her brain working. "Yeah, but I thought he said he paid for my tuition with his savings." I paused for a beat, then sighed. "Layla, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I remember seeing papers in Dad's office once. I didn't read them, but I think there were loans listed under both our names." That one sentence was enough. She started calling them more often, asking questions. And each time they brushed her off, the doubt grew. By the end of that week, Mom called me sounding frustrated. "Nia, what have you been saying to your sister? She's been accusing us of lying about money." I played dumb, pretending to sound worried. "Oh no, she must have misunderstood me. I only mentioned something I saw years ago. Maybe she's just stressed." That night, I heard through a mutual friend that my parents had a huge argument. My father accused my mother of talking too much, and she accused him of hiding things from her. It was almost funny watching their perfect image crumble, the same image they protected while pretending I didn't exist. While they were busy fighting, I was working quietly. I spent evenings scanning every document I had, the forged loan agreements, the bank transfers, even old emails between them and the university. I labeled everything carefully, creating digital folders and backups on drives they would never find. I wasn't rushing. I wanted the moment to be perfect. When Tanya stopped by my apartment one evening, she found me surrounded by papers. "Girl," she said, "you're building a case like a detective." I smiled without looking up. "No," I said softly. "I'm building the truth. The one they've been hiding from everyone." Layla started calling me more, asking questions she never dared to before. "Did they ever pay you back for that money they borrowed?" she asked one night. I hesitated, then whispered, "No, they never did." And just like that, another crack appeared. Every word I spoke was careful, deliberate, but rooted in something real. By the time I was done, the golden family they worshipped was nothing but a shell, polished on the outside, hollow on the inside, and I was the one holding the hammer, waiting for the right moment to swing. The night of Layla's 27th birthday felt like déjà vu. Same restaurant, same golden lights, same family pretending to be perfect. Only this time, I wasn't invited. And that was exactly how I wanted it. I sat in my car outside for a few minutes before walking in. Through the window, I could see them. My parents smiling wide, Layla laughing, her friends clapping as a waiter brought out champagne. They looked like the picture of happiness. But I knew better now. Behind every smile at that table was a lie, and I had the proof folded neatly inside my purse. I walked in quietly. Heads turned. My mother froze with her fork midair. My father's smile stiffened. Layla looked surprised but not angry, just confused. "Nia," she said softly. "You came?" "I did," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." The waiter tried to offer me a seat, but I shook my head. I wasn't staying long. My father cleared his throat. "This is really not the time, Nia. We're celebrating your sister." "I know," I replied, still smiling. "That's why I'm here. To celebrate, and to finally tell the truth." The table went silent. I could hear a fork drop somewhere behind me. I pulled a small folder from my purse and placed it on the table. "These," I said, "are documents for a college loan. The one you took out in my name, without my consent. The one you used to pay for Layla's tuition." My father's face turned red. "That's enough. Stop this nonsense right now." But I didn't stop. "You forged my signature, ruined my credit, and let me believe it was my fault when the bills started showing up. All while you told everyone how proud you were of Layla's education, the one I unknowingly paid for." Layla's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "What?" she whispered, turning to our parents. "That can't be true." I looked straight at her. "It is. I have the bank records, the emails, even the forged signature. Darius confirmed it, a lawyer, not just me making things up." My mother tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "Nia, please. Not here. You're embarrassing us." I laughed quietly. "Embarrassing you? You did that yourselves." People in nearby tables had started watching. The perfect Adesla family, the one that bragged about success and unity, now looked like strangers cornered under a spotlight. My father slammed his hand on the table. "You have no idea what you're talking about. We did what we had to do for this family." "For your favorite," I corrected him. "Not for the family. You never saw me as part of it." Layla stood up suddenly, tears filling her eyes. "Is this true?" she asked them. My parents didn't answer. That silence was all she needed. She grabbed her purse and walked out without another word. I took one last look at them, their faces pale, their lies unraveling, and turned to leave. No anger. No tears. Just peace. For the first time in my life, I didn't walk away defeated. I walked away free. After that night at the restaurant, everything fell apart faster than I expected. The Adesla family name, once polished and proud, started showing up in whispers and rumors. People talked. Some out of pity, others out of curiosity. I didn't care. I had already done what I needed to do, filed the report, submitted every piece of evidence, and let the truth run its course. Within 2 weeks, the investigation began. Darius helped me handle everything quietly and professionally. The authorities confirmed the forged documents, and once that happened, everything spiraled for my parents. Their credit accounts were frozen, their house was flagged for audit, and the family business, the one my father bragged about at every social event, started losing clients. Mom called me every day for a while. At first, she begged. Then she cried. Then she got angry. "You've destroyed us, Nia," she said one night over voicemail. "We were just trying to help your sister. How could you be so cruel?" I listened once, then deleted the message. Cruel. That word used to scare me. But now it just sounded empty. They never thought forging my name or stealing my savings was cruel. They only called it that when they were the ones hurting. Layla stopped talking to them completely. She texted me once, short, shaken words. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I can't believe they did that." I told her she didn't have to apologize. For the first time, we both saw them clearly, not as parents, but as people who had used love as a weapon. The news reached our community faster than I thought. Friends who once worshipped my parents began to distance themselves. My father's smile disappeared from every church function and family event. He stopped answering calls. My mother hid behind curtains when neighbors came by. The perfect image they built their lives on was gone. Meanwhile, I was finally breathing. I signed the lease for a small condo in Midtown, nothing fancy, but it was mine. The first night I moved in, I sat on the floor with a takeout box of pasta, surrounded by unopened boxes, listening to nothing but the hum of my own peace. No yelling. No guilt. No weight on my chest. I bought white curtains that swayed when the window was open, a small bookshelf, and a couch that smelled like new beginnings. For the first time, I didn't have to ask anyone's permission for anything. Every piece of furniture, every quiet morning, every bill with my name on it, it all felt like healing. One evening, as the sun set over the skyline, my phone rang again. It was my father's number. I watched it ring until it stopped. Then I turned my phone face down. They had lost everything they stole from me, my trust, my money, my silence. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was finally free, and freedom was something they could never take back. It had been months since I last saw Layla. Life had finally settled into something quiet, mornings with coffee by the window, nights spent reading in peace. I didn't think much about my family anymore. The storm had passed, and for the first time in years there was stillness. So when my phone buzzed one Sunday afternoon and her name appeared on the screen, I froze. I hesitated before answering. Her voice was soft, uncertain. "Nia, can we talk?" A few hours later, she showed up at my condo. She looked different, tired, stripped of the perfect glow she always carried. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes were puffy like she hadn't slept. When she walked in, she looked around, smiling faintly. "It's nice here. Peaceful." I poured her some tea, and for a few minutes, neither of us spoke. Then she sighed. "I've been trying to figure out what to say to you. Everything sounds wrong." "You don't have to say anything," I said quietly. "But I do," she insisted. "I need to." She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "I always knew I was the favorite, you know? Even when we were kids. Mom and Dad made it so obvious. I just thought that's how things were. That maybe you didn't mind because you were stronger somehow." She paused, shaking her head. But seeing what they did, the loans, the lies, it made me realize how blind I was. They didn't just hurt you. They used both of us. I just got the prettier version of their control. I didn't interrupt. Her voice trembled, and for once, it didn't sound rehearsed. "I'm not here to defend them," she continued. I'm sorry, Nia. I should have asked more questions. I should have seen it sooner." The words hit me gently, not like a shock, but like rain after a long drought. I nodded slowly. "I used to want you to say that," I admitted. "But now, I think I just needed to see that you understood." She smiled faintly. "I do now." We talked for hours, about growing up, about the pressure she felt to be perfect, about how I spent years trying to be invisible just to keep the peace. There was no shouting, no blame, just truth laid bare between two sisters finally on the same level. Before she left, Layla hugged me. It wasn't awkward or forced. It was quiet and real. "I don't know if we can ever fix everything," she said. "But maybe we can start fresh, just us." I nodded. "We can." After she left, I sat on the couch, sipping the last of the tea. For years, I thought closure would come from my parents finally saying they were sorry. But now I realized it wasn't about them. I didn't need their love to heal. I just needed my own peace, And now I finally had it. The letter came on a quiet morning, slipped under my door like a ghost from the past. I knew that handwriting anywhere. My mother's sharp loops, my father's heavy strokes. For a moment, I just stared at it lying on the floor, sunlight hitting the envelope like it was mocking me. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and finally opened it. It started with my mother's words. "Dear Nia," it read, "we've had time to think about everything. We know things went too far, and we regret the way it all turned out. We never wanted to lose our family, but you left us no choice when you brought the authorities into our private matters." I stopped reading right there, but I forced myself to continue. My father had written the next part in his blunt, almost mechanical way. "You've always been strong-willed. Maybe too much. We're sorry if our love came across as harsh. We only wanted control because that's how we kept things together." Control. The word that had followed me my whole life. They hadn't changed at all. There was no "we're sorry for the pain we caused you." No, we were wrong. Just regret for losing their power. Their tone was the same, cold, practical, more concerned about image than emotion. Even their apology was just another manipulation wrapped in guilt. I folded the letter back into the envelope, set it on the table, and looked around my home. The morning light was pouring in through the curtains, warm and golden. My plants were thriving, the air smelled like peace, and for once I didn't feel that heavy knot in my chest. I took the letter outside to the small balcony. The air was cool, carrying the faint sound of the city waking up. I struck a match and watched the flame catch at the edge of the paper. The handwriting turned black, curling inward, fading into smoke. I held it until the fire reached my fingertips, then dropped the last bit into the small metal dish beside my chair. The ashes fluttered in the breeze, light and meaningless. That's what their words finally were, weightless. I sat there for a long time, sipping my coffee, watching the smoke rise into the blue sky. No anger, no sadness. Just release. They would never understand, and that was okay. Some people only love through control, and when they lose it, they call it betrayal. But I had stopped living for their definition of love a long time ago. I wasn't celebrating my birthday anymore. I wasn't waiting for anyone to say, "I'm proud of you." I was just living, in a place I built, with peace I earned, and strength that no one could take from me again. For the first time in my life, I smiled and whispered to myself. For once, I didn't need to be loved to feel alive. Do you think Nia made the right choice by cutting ties and finding her own peace? Or should she have given her parents another chance? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to hear what you think. And if you enjoy powerful stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story.